What if the most dangerous thing a general could do was win too well? In ancient China, there was a commander whose victories were so complete that later generations remembered him almost like a weapon. He served as king for decades. He broke armies. He changed the balance of an entire age. And when it was over, the king ordered him to die. Not because he failed, because he had succeeded too well. His name was Bai Qi, and his story is not really about one man. It's about what happens when an entire state learns to treat war as a system and soldiers as tools. But to understand Bai Qi, you have to forget the China most people picture today. No single country, no unified empire, no shared flag, no common border, no single ruler. This was the Warring States period. For centuries, the land we now call China was divided between 7 rival kingdoms: Qin, Zhao, Chu, Wei, Han, Yan, Qi. Each had its own ruler, its own army, its own borders, its own fears. Think of ancient Europe, but compressed into one massive, permanent battlefield. And the rule was simple. If you didn't grow stronger, someone else would swallow you. Every king understood it. Every general lived by it. Among the 7 states, Qin was different. It sat in the west. To its rivals, it seemed rougher, less refined, almost backward. But that was exactly why it was dangerous. Qin was willing to change completely. Long before Qin Shi Huang became the first emperor, Qin had already rebuilt itself from the inside out. It restructured land ownership, taxes, law, and military service. It pushed agriculture hard. It rewarded productivity. It punished disorder. And most importantly for this story, it connected war to personal advancement. In most states, a soldier fought because his lord commanded it. In Qin, a soldier could fight because war was a career ladder. On the battlefield, violence could become proof. Proof could become rank. Rank could become land. And land could become a future. That sounds efficient, but it also created something dangerous. Qin built a system where violence could be measured, rewarded, and turned into social mobility. So what happens when an entire state learns that the fastest path upward runs through a battlefield? You get generals like Bai Qi. Here's what made Bai Qi different from other great commanders. He wasn't remembered for daring charges, not for inspiring speeches before battle, not for courage in the face of impossible odds. He was remembered for something colder: precision. Bai Qi didn't just want to defeat an enemy army. He wanted to make sure that army could never fight again. Most generals aim for victory on the day. Bai Qi aimed at something further out: the permanent elimination of his enemy's ability to resist. A normal victory changed the map. Bai Qi's victories changed what his enemies believed was still possible. He served Qin for decades. He fought against Han, Wei, Zhao, and Chu. He captured cities. He destroyed armies. He pushed Qin's borders further and further outward. One of his most significant campaigns came against Chu, a vast southern kingdom with deep traditions and enormous territory. Bai Qi attacked and captured Ying, one of Chu's most important capitals. For Chu, this wasn't just a military defeat. It was a psychological wound. A great state had been forced to abandon one of its own centers of power. Bai Qi was becoming more than a successful general. He was becoming Qin's sharpest weapon. And every time that weapon was used, Qin moved one step closer to domination. But weapons don't choose when they're used. States do. The greatest test of Bai Qi's life came not against Chu, but against Zhao. Zhao was one of the strongest military powers standing between Qin and dominance. If Qin wanted to control the Warring States world, Zhao had to be broken. The battlefield that would decide this was called Changping, and at first, Zhao was not doomed. That matters. Because this was not a story of a weak state being crushed by a stronger one. Zhao had capable soldiers, military tradition, experienced commanders. At Changping, Zhao's general was Lian Po, old, careful, and deeply strategic. And Lian Po understood one thing clearly: do not give Qin the battle it wants. Qin's army was powerful, but it also had to maintain supply lines across a long distance. It had to keep men fed. It had to sustain pressure without burning itself out. So Lian Po chose defense. He built fortifications. He held his line. Qin challenged him again and again, trying to provoke open battle. Lian Po refused. To impatient observers, this looked like fear. To a serious commander, it was strategy. He was making Qin bleed time. And that created a real problem for Qin. If your enemy won't make a mistake, you make his king replace him. This is where the story becomes something more than a battlefield story. It becomes political warfare. Qin agents spread rumors inside Zhao. The message was carefully designed. They claimed Qin wasn't afraid of Lian Po at all. He was old, defensive, easy to manage. The man Qin truly feared, they suggested, was Zhao Kuo. Zhao Kuo was the son of a famous general. He'd studied military theory deeply. He could talk about warfare with confidence and fluency. To a ruler frustrated by stalemate, Zhao Kuo looked like exactly the kind of commander who could break the deadlock. The trap worked. The Zhao king replaced Lian Po with Zhao Kuo. That was the first fatal move. But Zhao didn't know there was a second move happening simultaneously. When Qin learned that Zhao Kuo had taken command, Qin secretly brought Bai Qi in as its top general. And this appointment was kept completely hidden. Anyone who revealed it faced execution. Think about what that tells you. Zhao changed generals because it wanted a faster victory. Qin changed generals because it wanted a final one. Zhao Kuo arrived and did exactly what Bai Qi needed him to do. He attacked. The careful patience of Lian Po was gone. Zhao's army moved out, pursuing what appeared to be a retreating Qin force. But Bai Qi wasn't running. He was opening the door. Qin forces deliberately fell back. Zhao's troops followed, moving further from their fortified position, deeper into unfamiliar territory. Then the trap closed. Qin forces cut Zhao's rear. Another force separated sections of the Zhao army. Supply lines severed. The army divided. Isolated. Trapped. This was Bai Qi's kind of war. Not glorious. Not romantic. Not a duel of heroes under waving banners. Pressure. Encirclement. Hunger. Time. The Zhao soldiers weren't just fighting enemy troops anymore. They were fighting geography, logistics, exhaustion, fear. And when the Qin king received word that Zhao's food routes had been cut, he personally mobilized additional forces to block any rescue or resupply. That detail matters. Changping wasn't just Bai Qi's victory. It was Qin's entire system operating at full force. The general set the trap. The state tightened it. For the surrounded Zhao army, the battlefield had become a cage. When an army is encircled, starving, and cut off from rescue, is it still a battle? Or has it already become something else? After the Zhao army collapsed, traditional histories record that a massive number of soldiers surrendered. And then Bai Qi ordered them killed. The most cited figure is hundreds of thousands of Zhao troops executed or buried after the battle. Modern historians approach ancient numbers carefully. Ancient sources often use large figures to convey scale, shock, and political memory rather than precise arithmetic. The exact number is debated, but the memory of the event is not. Changping became one of the darkest war memories in all of Chinese history, not just another battle, a national trauma. And here's why that matters. Beyond the numbers, an army can be rebuilt slowly, painfully, over time. But when a state loses a huge portion of its trained fighting men at once, it loses far more than soldiers. It loses fathers, sons, farmers, laborers, future families, future taxes, future armies. A battlefield defeat becomes a demographic wound. Bai Qi didn't just defeat Zhao that day, he damaged Zhao's future. And that is why his name became something people feared to say aloud. After Changping, the road to Qin's dominance became clear. Qin still had enemies. Unification was still years away. Qin Shi Huang had not yet become emperor, but one of the greatest obstacles had been shattered. Bai Qi had delivered one of the most important victories in Qin's history. That should have made him untouchable. It didn't. Here is where the story becomes strange. The Qin court wanted to press forward immediately and attack Zhao's capital, Handan, but Bai Qi resisted. He believed the timing was wrong. He believed the campaign wasn't ready. He believed attacking at that moment could turn a historic victory into a disastrous overreach. This detail complicates the image of him. If Bai Qi were simply a mindless instrument of destruction, he would always want more war. But he wasn't mindless. He had spent his entire life calculating war in the coldest terms possible, and now those calculations told him clearly, do not attack. But states that build war machines don't always respond well to the word no. The Qin king grew frustrated. Powerful court officials grew angry. Bai Qi, the weapon Qin had used for decades, was refusing to be used. And a weapon that resists the hand holding it doesn't stay a weapon for long. It becomes a threat. Eventually, Bai Qi was stripped of rank and ordered into exile. Then, according to the historical record, he was given a sword and commanded to take his own life. The most feared general of his era did not fall in battle. He wasn't killed by Zhao vengeance. He wasn't struck down by a rival commander. He died by order of the state he had served his entire life. Before the end, the traditional account says Bai Qi asked what crime he had committed against heaven to deserve this fate. Then he thought of Changping. He said that the hundreds of thousands of Zhao soldiers who surrendered had trusted him, and he had deceived them. For that, he said, death was deserved. Then he killed himself. That is a chilling ending. Not because it gives you a clean moral lesson, but because it refuses to give you an easy one. Was Bai Qi a military genius? Yes. Was he capable of extraordinary cruelty? The historical memory says yes. Was he alone responsible for the world that created him? That is the harder question. Because Bai Qi didn't appear from nowhere. He came from Qin, and Qin came from the logic of the warring states. Every state lived in fear of being destroyed. Every ruler pursued security through strength. Every reform promised survival. Every victory demanded the next one. Step by step, survival became expansion. Expansion became conquest. Conquest became system. And inside that system, Bai Qi rose further than almost anyone. He was not the first emperor, but he helped make the first emperor possible. Before Qin Shi Huang could unify laws, roads, weights, riding, and power, Qin first had to break every army capable of resisting it. Bai Qi helped do that. He helped build the road to empire. But he never saw the empire that road became. That may be the final irony. The man who terrified an entire era was himself consumed by the age he served. The general who won too much became too dangerous to keep. And the state that rewarded victory destroyed one of its greatest victors. So when you think about Bai Qi, don't just ask whether he was a monster. Ask the darker question. What kind of world makes a man like Bai Qi not only possible, but useful?